What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel for another episode of Ask Me Anything. Once again, you guys killed it this week with the questions, so huge thank you to every single one of you who took the time to come up with the question and leave it on the post. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of you guys because we just hit 68,000 subscribers. If you're new here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're now on the road to 70,000. If you're a fan of the NHL and you want to stay up to date and you want this kind of content all season long, this is definitely the place to be. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. The first question we have comes from D&D_fear, who says, is Dallas for real this year? With Robertson being a possible Hart Trophy candidate, Heiskanen playing the best offensive hockey of his career, Ottinger continuing his amazing play, and Ben having a career resurgence, I think it's very likely. I do think Dallas is for real. I definitely view them as legit Stanley Cup contenders. If I had to rank the Western Conference teams in terms of who I think is most likely to come out of the Western Conference and make the Stanley Cup Finals, I definitely have Dallas in my top three. There's just so many elements to this team that make them so good. Like you mentioned, they have an amazing goaltender in Jake Ottinger, one of the best defensemen in the NHL, Amir Heiskanen, and then one of the best 5v5 lines in the league led by Jason Robertson along with Roope Hintz, Joe Pavelski. And we're seeing the veterans on the Dallas Stars, the guys that were the faces of the franchise before Robertson, Hintz, and Heiskanen came along, Seguin, and Jamie Benn, play some of the best hockey we've seen from them in a long time. Jamie Benn especially. Mason Marchment has been a very nice addition. They signed him as a free agent in the offseason. Wyatt Johnston has came in and gave them some nice production. He's a really underrated rookie in my eyes. This is just a really deep team. When you get contributions all through the lineup from everybody and you don't just rely on one area of your team to have success, I feel like that's the best formula to maintain success. So I definitely think Dallas is legit this year. Moving along now to the next question. The Leafs have been stellar defensively despite their injuries. Do you think the Leafs can keep up their goaltending and defensive performance throughout the season and even possibly win the division? Also really appreciate the support. I mean, who would have thought the Leafs would be in the position they're in right now? One of the hottest teams in the league, one of the best teams in the league, with three of their highest paid defensemen out of the lineup in TJ Brodie, Jake Muzzin, and Morgan Riley. Guys like Mark Giordano have really stepped up. Even Connor Timmins, he's brought some stability to their bottom pairing since coming over in that trade. So you have to imagine that once their defense starts to get healthy, it's only going to get better. And when it comes to the goaltending, again, it's like, who would have thought, right? The big question for the Leafs coming into the season really was in net. How would a Murray and Samsonov tandem work out? And so far so good. They own one of the best team save percentages in the league. They're not just getting good goaltending from one of their goaltenders, they're getting great goaltending from both of them. Samsonov and Murray have both been great, and a lot of people don't realize because Jack Campbell's numbers as a whole didn't look that bad last year, but like after December, he really wasn't good. The Leafs got bad goaltending as a whole last season, and yet they were still one of the best regular season teams in the league, and they were still able to take Tampa to 7 games in the first round, obviously the team that wound up making it out of the Eastern Conference. So just imagine what the Maple Leafs are capable of now that they are getting some of the best goaltending in the league. I really think this team is scary this year. I know we say it every year about the Maple Leafs. This is the year, this is the year. But if there was any year for them to do it, it's got to be this year, right now that they're getting this kind of goaltending. The next question we have comes from Kyle Thomas 1953, who says, with the emergence of Vitek Vanacek and the solid play of Akira Schmidt since Mackenzie Blackwood was injured, could we potentially see a trade take place involving Blackwood? And also really appreciate the support. I would actually not be surprised at all if this is something we see happen. Akira Schmidt has been really good in the small sample size, 6 games. He has a .940 save percentage, and this guy's 4 years younger than Blackwood. He was a 5th rounder by the Devils in 2018, showing a lot of promise and upside right now, and obviously you're not going to tinker with Vitek Vanacek the way he's played this season. Now, I do feel like if there is a Blackwood trade, it's most likely something that would happen in the offseason because usually mid-season teams have their goaltending situations figured out. A lot of the goaltending movement happens in the offseason, but yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised at all if this is Blackwood's last season as a member of the Devils. Just based off the way he's played the past 3 seasons now, he really hasn't been good as a whole, and now the Devils are getting great goaltending from 2 goalies, so he's kind of on the outside looking in right now. Moving on now, this next question comes from Maxime, who says, if you had to pick a dark horse candidate for all the awards, what would they be? And also, again, really appreciate the kind words. I'll just do some of the major awards here. For the Hart Trophy, so the MVP, I definitely think Crosby is a dark horse for that. I honestly don't think he should be a dark horse. I think he should be viewed as a legit candidate, but I really don't think Crosby's getting enough credit for just how good he's been this season. A dark horse for the Norris, I would definitely say Josh Morrissey from the Winnipeg Jets, who's easily having the best season of his career by far. He's on pace to break his career high in points like in the next couple of weeks probably. For the Calder Trophy, I'll actually go with another Winnipeg Jet here and say Cole Perfetti's been really good over the past couple of weeks. He's producing, he's playing in the Winnipeg Jets top 6, he's getting power play minutes. I think this is a guy who's only going to continue to get better and better as the season rolls along, so it wouldn't be surprising to me if by the end of the season he's right up up there with Matty Beniers as one of the top scoring rookies in the league. And lastly, we'll do the Vezina Trophy, and give me Vitek Vanacek from the New Jersey Devils, who we just talked about not long ago. 12-2-1 on the season, .916 save percentage, 2.3 goals against. The Devils' playstyle really caters to their goaltending, especially this season. They make the lives of their goaltenders relatively easy when they're starting. Not a lot of high danger chances, not a ton of shots against. I think by season's end, Vanacek is probably going to end up with one of the more impressive win-loss records in the league, and if he can get that save percentage, north of 920, I definitely think he could get his name in the conversation for the Vezina. Moving on, now this next question comes from Rahul3581, who says, thoughts on Jonathan Berggren's strong start with the Red Wings. He has 9 points in 14 games, averaging just 12 minutes a night. I've been really impressed with Berggren ever since he's been called up from Grand Rapids, and it's just such a nice change to have a guy playing in the bottom six, and in Jonathan Berggren's place, playing pretty much exclusively on the fourth line, that can actually create offense and produce and create chances out of nothing. For as long as I can remember, the Red Wings' fourth line has just been a line that goes out there and really does nothing, especially over the past, 4 or 5 seasons. But this year, really, when Berggren is playing with Veleno and Zarnik on that fourth line, those guys play great together. They produce, they generate chances. I think Austin Zarnik's, pesky forechecking ability really complements the game of Berggren and Veleno nicely. And in the case of Berggren and Veleno, those two have some really nice chemistry together from the time they spent in Grand Rapids. So I've been really pleased with Berggren. Again, I'm really looking forward to see what he can do in a bigger role eventually when that does happen. But I'm definitely not somebody that's rushing that and saying, oh, put Berggren in the top 6 just because he's producing in a fourth line role. I honestly am kind of the mindset right now with him. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Let him continue to produce, getting bottom 6 matchups. Moving on now, this question comes from Jalen, who says, thoughts on Eli Tolvanen being placed on waivers. I remember in a previous AMA I said this is a big year for him considering he is a youngish player with potential but also still has a lot to prove. That was definitely a pretty big surprise from yesterday. If you don't know, the Nashville Predators did place Eli Tolvanen on waivers, their first round pick from the 2017 NHL draft, and today he was actually claimed by the Seattle Kraken. And then Cap Friendly went out and tweeted that 22 teams passed on Eli Tolvanen because the Kraken were number 23 on the waiver wire. So definitely pretty surprising. This is a guy who again was a first round pick from 2017, was above a half a point per game player in the 2020-21 season. He had 22 points in 40 games. I still think Eli Tolvanen has the capabilities of being a guy that can score 20 goals on a regular basis. Now that he's getting a change of scenery, getting an opportunity to go to a team like Seattle, wouldn't be surprised at all to me if next season he breaks out and scores 25 goals or something like that. Kind of surprised that he actually slipped all the way to Seattle on the waiver wire. Like I said, Cap Friendly tweeted out that 22 teams passed on Tolvanen, which I feel like that's honestly a little bit more surprising than the fact that Nashville put him on waivers in the first place. Continuing on now to the next question, do you think McDavid could hit 150 points this year? Currently he is on pace for 158, and also really appreciate the kind words. I wouldn't really put it past McDavid to score 150 points. If there was anybody in the NHL right now that could do it, it would be him, obviously. Even though this season is year 7 or 8 of McDavid in the NHL, he still does things that surprise me and surprise everybody. Just when you think he couldn't get any better, he does. So I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see him put up 150 points. Next up, this question comes from Anton, who says, if Pelech would be out long term, do you think the Isles would pursue a Chychrun trade before the deadline, and would a package of a first, Wahlstrom, and Beauvillier cut it, or is someone like Aatu Ratti needed in the package as well? Would be a steep price indeed, and also really appreciate the support. I do think the Islanders make sense as a team that could go out and pursue a Chychrun trade again, like you said, especially if Adam Pelech is out long term. That being said, I don't think a package of Wahlstrom and Beauvillier in a first would cut it. It doesn't really seem like the Arizona Coyotes are interested at all in guys that would step right into the lineup and be NHL regulars like Beauvillier and Wahlstrom would. I seen a report the other day saying Arizona is seeking 2 first-round picks and a second, or instead of the second, a good prospect. So 2 firsts and a good prospect. So definitely don't think your proposed package would cut it. I feel like it would have to be something like either 2 first-round picks and the second, like they're wanting, or maybe 2 first-round picks and instead of the second, Aatu Ratti. But I feel like if you're the Islanders, you'd probably be more willing to give up a second than Ratti at this point. The next question we have comes from RJ, a bit of a different one here, who says, considering the success, what are the most and least favorite parts of running your own channel? What other hockey channels do you enjoy other than your own? So yeah, obviously, doing this full time like I do, it definitely has its perks. Being able to make your own schedule is definitely the biggest thing. There's nothing better than being your own boss. Also, just the community we've built, it's really nice to just be able to talk hockey with thousands of people whenever I want, whether that's in video form or on Twitter. I live tweet usually when I'm watching games, interact with you guys a lot on there, which is always a lot of fun. I could go on and on about my favorite things, but those are definitely two of my favorites there. And as far as my least favorite things about running my own channel, well, especially now that I'm in like what year, like 6, 7 of doing this, it gets hard sometimes to come up with original ideas. I kind of feel like I've done everything at this point. It really gets hard sometimes to come up with ideas, and ideally I'd like to upload like 5 times a week, but I just don't think that's possible because sometimes I just can't think of anything. So I would say that's definitely the hardest part. Another thing is like, you know, rude comments, sometimes they get to me, but honestly I feel like I've gotten pretty lucky with the community we've built. Like I don't get many bad comments on videos. Like some videos I don't get any bad ones at all, so I really appreciate you guys for that. And other channels I watch, you know, I try not to too much, not because I don't want to support other hockey YouTubers, it's just like I don't want to be inspired to make a video from what I've seen from someone else, because then people are just going to be like, oh well, you're just copying this person, and then you get into all that kind of stuff. But there are some that I do watch religiously. Steve Dangle, I watch his LFRs, I listen to all of his podcasts, and then also the hockey guy. I've really enjoyed his channel for a long time. I mean, the dude reviews every single game of the season, which is insane. You really just can't beat that kind of output. Moving along now, the next question we have comes from user who says, do you think there's a chance that Vancouver trades Besser for a defenseman like Joel Edmondson, or do they do what Calgary did with Monahan and add a first to move his contract? Also really appreciate the support. I really don't think Brock Besser is that far gone at this point where you'd have to settle for like a Joel Edmondson in return, and I really don't think you'd have to attach something just to rid yourself of his contract just yet. Yes, he's having a down year finishing wise. He's not a great 200-foot player, but this is a guy who's 25 years old and already has 4 20-goal seasons under his belt, multiple times in which he scored at a 30-plus goal pace. If you're the Canucks, I feel like you want to be patient with this. I honestly feel like they should kind of hold on to him because he is still under contract through 2024-25. I think it would be stupid for Vancouver to trade a guy like Besser when his value is at an all-time low like it is right now, so I feel like they should wait for him to get back to form, whether that happens this season or in the coming seasons. Then that's the point where I think you should really explore a Brock Besser trade if they still want to do it at that point. Maybe wait till he only has 1 or 2 years left on his deal. The next question we have comes from Trollololol65, who says, what do you think of Kochekov's ceiling? He's already nabbed 2 shutouts in 11 games and is outperforming both Hurricanes goalies. Both Anderson and Ranta are pending UFAs, so do you think Kochetkov becomes at least a backup goalie in the next year or two at the NHL level? I certainly think this is a guy who's pretty much going to be playing exclusively at the NHL level from here on out. I think Carolina at the very least views him as their backup for next season, considering the fact that they signed him to that 4-year deal. I feel like they're probably going to try to re-sign Freddie Anderson in the offseason and then roll into next season with an Anderson and then Kochetkov tandem. But he's definitely been very good for the Hurricanes, and it's been important for them because, like you said, Antti Ranta and Freddie Anderson, you know, when they're healthy even, they aren't playing the greatest, not up to par with last season. It just seems like Carolina's a goaltending factory. Like, no matter who it is, year in, year out, they get good goaltending from somebody. And now for the final question of today's video, this one comes from Nate M9743, who says, thoughts on the goaltending situation in Detroit? Husso has seemed to take the solidified starting role as compared to the split in games many thought he would have. Where does this leave Ned? Do you believe that he will be moved in order for Kosa to be brought up? So yeah, you're definitely right on that. Husso is, without a shadow of a doubt, Detroit's solidified number 1, and Ned at this point has honestly been a non-option, even as a backup. Like, he's been bad. Now, as far as will he be moved to make room to bring up Kosa, I don't think so. Ned is in the final year of his contract. He's going to be a UFA at the end of the season anyways, so I just think Detroit ends up letting him walk. Can't imagine you'd get any kind of return in any sort of trade for Nedeljkovic at this point with the way he's playing and based off of his cap hit. And the Red Wings actually did just recently call up Magnus Hellberg, and Husso and Ned are healthy, so they're carrying 3 goaltenders right now. I feel like that tells you all you need to know in terms of the confidence this team has in Nedeljkovic right now. We're probably going to see Hellberg get into some games here in the coming weeks, games that normally Nedeljkovic would start. So that is going to wrap up today's episode of the Ask Me Anything series. Like I said at the beginning, again, huge thank you to every single one of you who took the time to come up with a question and leave it on the post, and just thank you to everyone who continues to support this series week after week. I see a lot of the same names leaving questions, so I really appreciate all of you guys. Of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more weekly Ask Me Anythings, be sure to drop a like. That is the best way to show your support. And also, we're now on the road to 70,000 subscribers, so if this was your first time checking out the channel, or maybe it wasn't but you just haven't subscribed yet, please be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want more NHL content just like this all season long. And with that being said, I will talk to you all in the next video.